We have a little ritual that we do 4 times a year at the equinoxes and the solstices, and we use the Sunday closest to those dates. And this is our time to honor the coming solstice, and you will see that we have our winter banner up. And then we always sing our little chant for the seasons. So let's start our service with that. I just wanted you to notice the seasonal banner change.
Good morning. I'm Barbara Nelson with Spokane Unitarian Universalist Church. While our minister, Reverend Todd Eckhoff, is away, I'm very pleased to welcome our guest speaker, Timothy Connor, named the Outstanding Graduate in Journalism from Washington State University in 1979. He moved to Spokane, where in his early 20s he became the lead investigative reporter for the Spokane magazine. He is perhaps best known for his work exposing Hanford's nuclear hazards and secrets, his reporting and activism on police reform, and for exposing Spokane River Park Square scandal. His current book, Beautiful Wounds, is both a personal memoir about loss and a showcase for his lifelong passion for nature photography. The Unitarian Universalist Church of Spokane is a place where we join together in nourishing a liberal religious community and champion justice, diversity, and environmental stewardship in the wider world. In short, to create community, find meaning, and work for justice. We embrace all that you bring with you this morning, your unique beliefs, your background, your lifestyle, your experiences, and your differences. All that make you who you are. And you are welcome. This is true of all those who hear those heartfelt words each Sunday, as well as those who may be joining us for the first time. And of course, a welcome to you who are attending Zoom meetings or streaming with us today. You are all equally embraced and appreciated for all you bring. If you'd like to find out more about our community and Unitarian Universalism, please stop by the visitors table in the welcoming room and pick up a visitor's folder if you haven't already done so. And please fill out a visitor card while you are here. At this time, I would like to invite you to take a few moments to say hello to the people sitting around you. always, there will be more time to visit during our social hour. But for now, we formally begin our service by lighting the chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalism, the symbol of our unity and solidarity, of our openness and inclusion, of our community and individual uniqueness. May this small flame be our offering of warmth to those who are cold and alone, a light to those in darkness, and may it be a light that ignites justice in our world and a beacon of hope for those in need. May it reflect at least a spark of truth wherever truth has been lost and cast a healthy shadow of doubt where it has been found. The opening reflection today comes from a 16th century friar, Fra Giovanni. I salute you. There is nothing I can give you which you have not, but there is much that, while I cannot give, you can take. No heaven can come to us unless our hearts find rest in it today. So take heaven. No peace lies in the future which is not hidden in this present instant. Find peace. The gloom of the world is but a shadow, and behind it, yet within our reach, is joy. Take joy. And so at this Christmas time, I greet you with a prayer that for you, now and forever, the day breaks and the shadows flee away. Come, let us worship together.
Our first in-service hymn of the morning is called Dark of Winter. It's in number 55, and it's a tune that is easy to learn, but that we haven't known very much. So I'm going to have Maura play it through as you stand so that you can see how it goes.
This is a time in our service when we light candles for those who are most in our hearts and minds this morning. We begin, as we always have done over the past year, remembering the people of Ukraine and those in that part of the world that are so locked into battle and grievously now in that bitter cold. A special request comes from church member Jan Baker asking for a candle be lit for her friend and fellow master gardener, Eberhard, and his wife Susie. Eberhard was diagnosed a week ago with terminal late-stage pancreatic cancer, and they asked for strength and comfort for Susie and a peaceful passing for Eberhard. Let us share a moment in silence, embracing others who are most in our hearts and minds this morning. You are welcome to say their names aloud if you'd like. Becky, Susan, those named aloud and those embraced in our silence, and all those who are suffering in our world at this hour, we hold in our community of compassion. We now gratefully give and receive this morning's offering, which sustains our community and its mission to a larger world. Our special collection and its mission is to support 3 downtown ministries: Shalom's Dining with Dignity, serving many of Spokane's homeless and poor. The Woman's Hearth provides snacks and limited meals year-round. And Burritos for the People, an outreach program providing a no-cost gourmet burrito and coffee and juice every Sunday. If these ministries speak to you, we invite you to use the envelope provided, and please do not seal them.
Christmas time is here. Christmas time is here. Christmas time is here. Christmas time is here. Happiness and cheer. Happiness and cheer. For children call their favorite time of year. Snowflakes in the air. Carols everywhere. Rolling times and ancient rhymes of love and dreams to share. Sleigh bells in the air. Beauty everywhere. Yuletide by the fireside, and joyful memories there. Christmas time is here. Christmas time is here. Families drawing near. What have we heard always sing such spirit through the years. Yuletide by the fireside, and joyful memories there. Christmas time is here. Families drawing near. Glad we could always sing such spirit through the years. What have we could always sing such spirit through the years.
Thank you, that's beautiful. Now is the time in our service for all of those children and all of those young at heart to please sit back and enjoy and relax our Christmas story. And this is my friend Penelope, and she's part of the story, so please enjoy. It was Christmas Eve, and Santa and his reindeer had worked for hours delivering presents to children all around the world. He left the freezing Northland behind and was now traveling along the warmer south coastline. A full moon shone down on the water and lit up the sandy beach below. Stars were twinkling. Santa smiled, thinking about how excited the children would be as they crawled into bed that night. Suddenly, his sleigh was hit by a big gust of wind. He was tossed this way and that. He hung on, but the last few bags of toys fell out of his sleigh and hit the sandy beach below with a thud. Toys were scattered everywhere. A frown came across his face, and the twinkle left his eyes when Santa landed and he saw the mess. Oh no! He had been making such good time, and now this? He searched everywhere in his emergency kit, but he couldn't find anything to fix it. Santa was so busy, he didn't notice a flock of pelicans had been watching what was going on. They could hardly believe their eyes. Imagine seeing a fat man dressed in a red coat land on the beach with a sleigh pulled by a bunch of deer. They walked closer, and the boldest pelican spoke out. "Excuse me," she said. "It looks like something is wrong. What happened? What are all these toys doing on the beach?" "Oh my," gasped Santa as he stood up in surprise at the sight of a whole bunch of birds just staring at him. Catching his breath, he said, "Well, I'm Santa Claus, and it's my job to deliver toys to boys and girls around the world every Christmas. But a big gust of wind came by and knocked these bags out of my sleigh. I just had a few bags left, and I have to deliver them to the children before they start waking up in the morning. I don't know what to do." "Well, said the bird, "maybe we can help. But let me first introduce myself. My name is Penelope. And these other pelicans are Peter and Pam. And I'm really quite pleased to meet all of you, and I don't want to be rude, but I have a very big problem. It has to be fixed right now. I'm running out of time. Do you have anything I can use to patch this bag up? Fishing line? Duct tape? Or something?" "Oh, we try to stay away from fishing line as far as we can. We get all tangled up in the line and stuck by the hooks. But we have something even better. We have our own special pouches. With all of us working together, we can carry enough presents so the rest will fit in your sleigh. And then we can fly with you on your rounds." "Oh, that's great. You think you can do that? I didn't even know pelicans could talk. And now you can say you can fit these presents in your pouches? This is quite a surprise." "Well," laughed Penelope, "we didn't know reindeer could fly." Well, imagine this. So they went to work very quickly, and they started piling all the toys in their pouches, and they got fuller and fuller, and then the rest fit in the sleigh just magically. And so Santa said, he looked around and he said, "Let's go!" And so they took off. The reindeer started pulling the sleigh off, and the pelicans started flapping their wings, and they lifted themselves high in the air, and they followed Santa along. Now, Santa was quite a talker, and so as he was flying, he was telling them all sorts of stories, and they were just mesmerized. And so the time went by very quickly, and just as the last toy was set at the base of a tree, the sun was rising up over the horizon. Well, Santa gave them all a ride back to the beach. They were pretty tired, and it was an extra special treat to ride with him in his sleigh. And back home, they waved to Santa, and we moved back as his reindeer turned the sleigh and headed home to the north. Exhausted but happy, the birds settled down to catch up on their sleep they had missed. And in their dreams, they could hear the shouts of laughter and joy as the children around the world began opening their presents. Well, the surprises weren't over yet. When the birds finally woke up, they discovered little packages laid beside each of them, and they laughed when they opened them up. And imagine the surprise of the people as they're walking along the beach when they saw a whole flock of pelicans wearing Santa's hats. So, there you go. And we use this opportunity to sing the children out. Around you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
We're all at Grandma's house.
Meditation on words and silence. Please make yourself comfortable. Breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and consider this quote from writer Louise Erdlich. "We are often like rivers, careless and forceful, timid and dangerous, lucid and muddied, eddying, gleaming, still. Lovers, farmers, and artists all have one thing in common at least: fear of dry spells, dormant periods in which we do no blooming, internal droughts that only the waters of imagination and psychic releases can civilize.
Good morning. I want to do a few things before I dig around for my glasses. First, thank you for the invitation to be here. It's quite an honor to have the opportunity to address this fine and long-standing congregation in Spokane. Really pleased to be here. Not to be a huckster about it, but we do have books this morning. My new book, Beautiful Wounds, is in the back. I'm ill-equipped to take credit cards, but if you have cash or a check that you'd like to write, I'm told they make magnificent Christmas gifts, but you'd expect me to say that. The last time I was here 5 years ago, it was to talk about Tell, which was a 2017 book I'd written with Margaret Witt about her and her wife Lori. I've often described Tell as a great love story masquerading as a legal thriller. It's the story of how Margie contested the don't ask, don't tell policy. She was the only service member in U.S. history to successfully challenge that law. And the book relates how she did this, even though she was adverse to the Justice Department in the Obama administration. There actually was a behind-the-scenes effort, rather covert, in the White House to make sure that she got her day in court. And they were not disappointed that she won, because shortly after Judge Layton ruled in her favor, Congress repealed Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So that's the legal, political thriller that Tell was. But the essence of Tell, to me, was love. And it's what, when Judge Layton, the federal judge who heard the case, gave his ruling, he stopped his legal analysis and he gave at the end a very emotional account of love, of the love that was about the journey that the Witt family had been on. Especially her parents. I mean, this is, her parents had officially in the family been in the dark about her sexual orientation all her life. And the Air Force's move to discharge her brought that to the fore. So they had to wrestle with that news that their daughter was being expelled, and also that her sexual orientation was being revealed publicly. And what moved Judge Layton to tears was how that family came together. How her parents not just transformed their views on homosexuality, became her most ardent supporters. Anyway, it was a wonderful experience to write that book. And I like the love part. It's stayed with me, and certainly stayed with the Witt family and those in Tacoma who know them well. While I was writing Tell, and even while I was standing here 5 years ago, I was living what became Beautiful Wounds. I actually remember the dinner at a bistro up on the South Hill where Connie and I told Margie and Lori that we were getting a divorce. They both thought we were pulling their legs. Beautiful Wounds is a book about deep heartache coupled with a sojourn into memory in a landscape known to geologists and others as the Channeled Scablands. As was my mother and my older sister, I was born in the Scablands and retreated there to try to regain my footing, to try to repair my broken spirits. Not just in the wake of divorce, but in the wake of a long wave of heartache. The loss of two close friends to cancer. I should add, one of whom was Kendall Feeney, who was a great mentor to my son, who's a budding saxophonist. In fact, one of Kendall's last performances was with my son. And losing her was hard, and as I'll share in a reading from the book later, I lost another dear friend during that period. And ultimately, lost my parents. They both had dementia. My dad died in 2017 of a heart attack, and my mother followed 2 years later. And I want to talk about my mother this morning. That is her picture at the foot of the podium. Being her son and being the writer in the family, I had thought for years about how I would eulogize her when she passed, but I never got the chance. When she passed, it was just months. She passed the day after Christmas, and it was shortly thereafter that COVID set in. And so the opportunity to meet in a large family funeral was just not there. So in a way, I get to say some things about her today that I would have said at her memorial. She had such a positive and caring spirit. Despite being badly crippled in her early 20s with arthritis, she was an unfailingly positive and encouraging person. I have a picture of her, a photograph of her, black and white, getting out of a pool when she was in her early 20s. And I noticed immediately in the picture something I never got to see in real life, which was one of her knees was bent. As long as I knew her, she was never able to bend either of her knees. And I never heard her complain. None of us children ever heard her complain. She would sometimes rub her hands and her ankles, but never once complained. Anyway, I'm all the more pleased to be here today to share her story and offer a glimpse into a journey of love that went hand in hand, heart to heart, with the journey of sorrow. So I'll come back to Joanne in a few minutes, but I first wanted to put on my glasses so you get that look too, and read from Beautiful Wounds. This is the final chapter. It's called Grand Chasms. Just as a footnote, I will mention the word Bretts in passing, and as I read this chapter, there's a whole chapter in the book called Bretts, and that's about the famous geologist who, basically found the secrets of the scablands and made the case that they were caused not by long-term natural forces, but by a great flood. He's an important person to me. My dad's a science teacher, so there's that. But the family, I'm come from a family that's rife with courage, and Brett's had to have the courage to hold to his findings, because his findings were not just rejected when he presented them, but he was widely mocked within the profession for even suggesting that the landscape that we travel through so often was formed by a catastrophic flood instead of natural forces. So he had to live through that, and it was not easy for him. Anyway, with that clarification, let me read from the chapter. Grand Chasms. The first time I sought refuge in Northrop Canyon was on a late summer day as I was on my way home from a funeral. I was grieving the loss of one of my mentors and resisting the pull of familiar surroundings and distractions, which is where the highway would have taken me. The fork in the road was just beyond Coulee City, where US 2 crosses the long earthen dam separating Banks Lake from Dry Falls and the corrugated grandeur of Lower Grand Coulee. Instead of continuing eastward towards Spokane, I followed Washington Route 155 northward along the lake and deep into the throat of Upper Grand Coulee. Unlike the Lower Coulee, which braids into a labyrinth of interconnected canyons several miles across, the Upper Coulee leaves Coulee City as a U-shaped half-pipe. The coulee is natural, but the 27-mile-long reservoir that floods the trough is nothing of the sort. Banks Lake is Columbia River water that has been pumped uphill, nearly 300 feet, for irrigation storage. On a calm day, the surface of the 2-mile-wide reservoir becomes a reflecting pool for the cliffs that tower above it. To correctly imagine the height of the cliffs, it may help to envision the Space Needle holding up the Statue of Liberty, including the pedestal. Midway between Coulee City and Grand Coulee Dam, the highway ramps up a talus slope, from where it offers a panoramic view toward Electric City, population 1,001. The island blade of Steamboat Rock is visible on the northern horizon. The scale of Upper Grand Coulee is so expansive you can easily lose perspective. When you're in the trough of the coulee, Steamboat Rock appears to have risen from below like an uplifted mountain. At the crest on Route 155, you can see that the signature anvil is actually just a surviving chunk of the former plain that the floodwaters tore away. The nakedness of the rock walls and treeless landscape can also lull you into a sense that everything is exposed and insight that all dimensions are visible in shades of earth, water, and sky. But that's also an illusion, and Northrop Canyon is proof of that. The memories of my old friend Bill Mitchell were like a loose pile of photographs, and leafing through them brought tears to my eyes. It was through Bill that I met my wife, Connie, a therapist and a peace activist in South Carolina. And 6 years later, just hours after our first child was born, I took a picture of him laughing with delight as he held tiny Audrey, my daughter, in his arms. Most importantly, his life was devoted to bringing people together and helping them protect their neighborhoods from perfidy and pollution. He'd fought the good fight. At his crowded memorial on Vashon Island, people from all over the country had come to share their stories and gratitude. I wanted to be alone for a while longer to think more deeply about what his life meant to me and my family. And that's how I wound up in Northrop Canyon, which is invisible from Route 155, but reachable on a gravel road that climbs over a ridge to the base of the canyon. Of course, Brett's had been there decades before I hiked in. He was meticulous about using measurements to soberly insist that such epic landscapes could only be explained by catastrophic floods that overwhelmed existing drainages and created new ones on a grand scale. And still he would often address his detractors and skeptical peers indirectly, all but pleading with them to open their eyes. Quote, "Again and again the writer has asked others and himself, where is the dangerously weak point in the flood hypothesis?" He wrote in 1932, "One can stand on the brink of Northrop Canyon and aver with confidence that it can never be satisfactorily explained except as an extinct Niagara." The questions I was wrestling with that summer afternoon had more to do with mortality, human aspiration and transcendence, than with geology. But that may be unfair to Brett, because his devotion to reason is what drove him. His legacy isn't so much about the stories in the rocks as it is about how we extract truth from a world that is as reluctant to disclose it as humans can be to accept it. My departed friend had motivated and challenged me and given me the opportunity to prove myself. Had I rewarded his confidence and trust? Had I made the best of it? There were other questions, all of a sort that can bring you to your knees in church. My first impression upon walking into Northrop Canyon was that I had walked into a church, a magnificent natural cathedral. From a narrow entry at a rocky bench above Banks Lake, the main trail into the well of the canyon winds through sage and pine before reaching an aspen grove wrapped in red twig dogwood. By the time you've reached the aspens, the stunning detail in the north wall has come well into view. What's striking is the water-sculpted relief in the basalt front just beneath the canyon's battered rim. It is a long line of gnome-shaped slabs, some the size of 6-story buildings, some leaning into each other, some standing alone, all together looking like a procession of gigantic hooded druids walking above a steep talus slope. The sheer power of the bedrock gouging floods that carved the rock into what Brett's termed an extinct Niagara also left a mark below. The floods tore so deeply through the basalt they exposed a gleaming underlying formation of granitic rock, the bedrock beneath the bedrock, so to speak. Near the mouth of the canyon, a massive molar of granite, nicknamed Gibraltar Rock, towers above a picturesque equestrian area. Instead of a flat trough in the well of the canyon, what you find is a long ridge of granite in repose between the basalt walls on either side. Because Northrop Canyon has the shape of the bone in a T-bone steak, what you see when you look down the canyon toward the east is a west-facing wall. The sense of confinement gives an impression that the canyon is a world unto itself, which at least in a poetic sense it is. More broadly, the canyon's creation, merely 15,000 years ago, is a spectacular slideshow to the operatic earthworks of Grand Coulee. It is a story that unfolded over thousands of years as the Okanogan lobe of the Cordilleran ice sheet advanced and retreated across the Waterville Plateau on the coulee's western flanks. The massive ice slope was like a rail yard switch, opening and closing pathways for the inland tsunamis of floodwaters arriving from the east. The crest of Steamboat Rock is nearly 800 feet above Banks Lake, which itself is 300 feet above today's Lake Roosevelt. What that means is that the floodwaters climbed out of one gorge to create another hanging above it. At their height, the glacial floodwaters overflowed Steamboat Rock by more than 100 feet. Just think about that. The Brett's floods not only excavated both Grand Coulee and Northrop Canyon, but the largest both had so inundated the Columbia River Valley that they overwhelmed and reversed the flow of a major tributary, the Wenatchee River, pushing water up gradient and dropping ice-rafted boulders from Idaho as far west as Leavenworth in the Cascade Mountains, nearly 20 miles upstream. What remains on today's landscape is a web of life-giving wetlands and dry pathways connecting natural monuments like Steamboat and Gibraltar. In Earth time, 15,000 years is barely any time at all, less than 1/3,000th of 1% of the age of the planet. You can still cut yourself on the sharpness of the talus from the basalt faces scoured by the Brett's floods. And that's how it looks too, like a fresh calamity, here to remind us about the power of nature and how transient and fragile we are by comparison. Deep in these canyons, we are invited to consider how precious it is to walk into the world beyond the reach of our schedules, invoices, and smartphones, to possess our fleeting senses and the consciousness to make meaning of it all, or at least to try. In January 2017, just as TEL was in its final editing, it became clear to my family that my parents needed round-the-clock caregiving and assistance. So for 60 hours a week, I became one of 3 caregivers, sleeping most nights on a couch next to my mother. Later that year, she was traumatized during what amounted to an experiment with an occupational therapist who was trying to find a better, safer way to bathe her. I'll spare you the details, but the upshot is that I became her bather after that, and remained so for the remaining 2 years of her life. There were physical challenges to moving her and bathing her because her knees, again, were locked by arthritis that even surgery hadn't been able to repair. But the main issue was trust. After the experiment, she didn't want to be bathed. And so 3 days a week, I would joke with her, hold her, sing to her, do everything I could think of to get her to relax enough so that I could get her into the shower and slide her on a bath bench beneath the water to give her a bath. A few months before she passed, I made a recording of the two of us getting ready for bath time. I'm going to play that recording now. I'll apologize in advance for my voice, but not for hers.
Gotta wash your hair and all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wash my hair?
Yeah. Yeah. It's bath day, so I thought I'd wash your hair.
It's bath day.
Yeah.
Do you want to wash my hair?
That's what I do on bath day. This is the way we wash our mom, wash our mom, wash our mom. This is the way we wash our mom, just like Monday morning. This is the way we make her shine, make her shine, make her shine. Make her shine like a diamond mine, just like Monday morning. I changed the words a little bit.
Yes, you did.
No.
That's okay.
It's just to mess with you. They're good words.
It was still good.
It was still a good song, yeah.
Yes, it was.
I know.
Yes, it was.
We have some other bad songs. Yeah. We're gonna wash that stuff right out of your hair. We're gonna wash that stuff right out of your hair. We're gonna wash that stuff out of your hair and send it down the drain.
Down the drain. I wasn't going to sing that.
I know. I kind of made up those words too.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Down the drain, meaning the soapy water with the grease in it was going to go down the drain, because that's good. We want it to go away. We only want to keep the clean water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you've had a pretty good day so far, don't you think?
Yeah. Yes.
All those visitors you had this week. Kind of a busy week, wasn't it?
It was a busy week.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what today is?
And you are busy.
I've been busy this week, that's right. Yeah, today is May the 4th. Yeah. Tomorrow will be the 5th of May. And then a week from tomorrow will be Mother's Day.
The Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, what do you want for Mother's Day?
Gee, I'd have to think about it. What do you think I should get?
I think you should get something that makes you really happy. Like,
Mother's Day. Something for Mother's Day?
yeah,
Oh,
you should get any flowers. You know, May flowers are real big because there's a lot of stuff in bloom in May. That's very pretty.
uh-huh.
And sometimes, some years, there's lilacs available for Mother's Day, and
Uh-huh.
sometimes I clip you some lilacs because they just smell so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the big lilac bush you had behind your house when you lived in Pasco?
I don't remember that.
It actually wasn't behind the house, it was kind of on the side of the house
All right.
where Gil used to park the car.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there was a big hedge, one of the biggest lilac hedges I've ever seen. But I never got to see it in bloom because I only saw it when we came up to visit during the summer. By that
Oh,
time,
really?
yeah, by that time the flowers had gone away.
Oh.
But when I came up here to go to college, I remember visiting Grandma there during the spring and just seeing those magnificent lilac flowers and smelling that wonderful smell. Yeah. You've got a big smile on your face.
Well, so do you.
Yeah, I love your smile.
I love your smile.
I love your laugh.
I love your laugh.
I love you tons.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Bless your heart.
Bless yours.
Yeah, Beth Day. Before her last Mother's Day. My oldest friend is Willie Nowotny. He's one of my old football buddies. We met in kindergarten, and he still reminds me of the Christmas program in 1968 and how I was such a lousy singer that I didn't make the cut to be in the choir with all the other kids. I was assigned to hand out programs instead, and after handing Joanne her program, I remember the way she just smiled at me beautifully and went into the auditorium. I didn't sing much after that. I got an F the next year in 7th grade music. And for what it's worth, I was also a shitty baseball player. But here's the thing. My mom loved music. She loved to sing. And she was especially fond of musicals. I should get a merit badge for having sung the entire stretch of Oklahoma every day for the last year of her life. Maybe I don't deserve it, but I can't get Oklahoma out of my head now. That's okay too. I can't get her out of my heart. Anyway, the best way to rinse away the fear and anxiety caused by dementia was to sing to her and with her. So after 47 years of muting my singing voice such as it is, I began to sing again and sing a lot. I was singing not because I love to sing, but because I love my mom. And that was the way to reach her and make her feel warm and safe. I wrote about the Scablands and Beautiful Wounds because that's where I had to find myself, because I was broken. And yes, the rugged earth story I walked into was somehow edifying and healing at once. Part of the reason it was healing is that it reconnected me to Joanne and her father, my grandfather, Gil Hartman, who loved to sing, loved to dance, and would often take me into the mountains to fish and camp. And he would sing while he fished and camped. They both taught me so much about love and kindness and the overwhelming importance of hope and the resolve to find joy in our lives. Because that's why we're here. Not to party endlessly, but to find the blessings of joy, to bring comfort and justice to others, and to make our lives worth living against the tides of our disappointments and setbacks and the inevitable face-off with mortality. I'd like to say more about how she did that, about how she made my life worth living again, but I can't. I struggle with it. I've done a dozen or so book events this year, and each time I try to talk at length about my mother, I just turn into a fountain of tears. I lose my voice in the process. I sound like a man and look like a man who's drowning, and that's just not what people come to book events to see. But in closing, I would want you to know that I'm not drowning. I'm not drowning because as my mother was dying, she rebuilt my heart. In her passing from this life, she breathed new life into mine. Thank you for welcoming me here today. You have a wonderful Christmas. Amen.
We're going to close with a song about the beauty of winter. It has a lot of gorgeous imagery. It's number 57, for those of you who care to access your gray hymnal. Of course, the words will be on the screen. The name of the tune is All Beautiful, the March of Days.
Hold on to what is good, even if it's a handful of earth. Hold on to what you believe, even if it is a tree which stands by itself. Hold on to what you must do, even if it's a long way from here. Hold on to my hand, even when I've gone away from you. Nancy Wood. Peace, shalom, salam alaikum, namaste, and amen.
Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Haverim, Shalom Haverim, Shalom, Shalom. Thank you for holding my hand.